Hi, it's Lynn Shuck with Healing and Balance. I'm about to show you 2 different ways you can work on core strength, specifically lower abdominals, while you're lying on your back. So the first thing to do is to understand what the positioning is lying on the back in the way that I teach it. So I teach something called Supine Mountain. I come from a yoga background, so we do a lot of mountain, Tadasana, Supine Mountain, lying on your back, supine. If you go onto your back and your chin goes way up to the ceiling because your head is very far forward of your spine most of the time, you do want to make sure that you put something under your head. So it could be, a blanket or a pillow or a small block or something. I do not need that. My chin lies level with my forehead. I'm not stuck here anymore. So the first thing is knowing if you need something under your head. Next, flex your feet, toes up to the ceiling. Keep the backs of your heels on the floor. Often when people go to straighten their knees, the heels pop off the floor. I want you to keep your heels on the floor. The next 3 directions are going to be heading toward the floor, but not necessarily going there. So you're going to press your thigh bones toward the floor, but your heels have to stay on the floor. This will probably engage your glutes and your lower abdomen a little bit. Don't move your pelvis. There's a little bit of gap under the back of the waist. Keep that, but you're going to pull your lower ribs and your shoulders toward the floor a little bit. Now, if you press too hard with the shoulders, often the ribs fly up. And if you press too hard with the ribs, the pelvis tucks under and the shoulders fly up. So there's a little game of how much shoulders, how much ribs. So again, we've got the back of the heels on the floor, thigh bones pressing toward the floor. Don't move your pelvis as you press your lower ribs and shoulders toward the floor. And this is Supine Mountain. Now sustain this. Try not to move anything in your torso, including that curve in the back of the waist. It should not get bigger or smaller. We're going to lift one leg up and lower it down, keeping it straight, and lift the other leg up and lower it down. When I first started doing this, I could only go about this high without my back wanting to arch. So it's taken some time for me to get higher than this. And I'm also very cold today, so this is it. I'm barely making it to 90. So you might go further if you're more flexible than I am. But you're working to keep your legs straight, to keep your ribs and your shoulders pressing toward the floor, to keep your spine still. So that's exercise number 1, we'll call it. So we did Supine Mountain, which was preparatory, and then we did a supine leg lift. So now we're going to do a different version of that, and you're going to bend both knees, and you're going to pick your feet up, knees right up over your hips. Now, the minute we do that, most people flatten their back to the floor. So I want you to find that little bit of curve in the back of the waist. You're going to take your tailbone more down toward the floor. Again, you're not letting it get back up into the upper back. Keep your ribs on the floor. And now without moving your torso, you're going to lower your foot to the floor and bring it back up. And lower your other foot to the floor and bring it back up. I'm doing it with flexed feet. You could do it with pointed feet. But what you're not doing is just bending your knee and touching it down. You're keeping that angle and you're reaching just slightly away from your torso as you go down and up. If that's easy, you can reach further. And again, nothing moving in my torso. Little bit of curve in the back of the waist stays there. You can't not use your lower abdominals when you do those 2 poses correctly. Often people do those poses and because they're using their back, they flatten their back into the floor. They're not using their low abdominals as well as they could be. Or if you're taking this one, we get into arching or we get into flattening. And again, it's your spine doing the work, not your lower abdominals. We want to get this work down into those muscles. They're hard to target and you can't isolate them. Muscles don't work that way, but you can emphasize them. These 2 poses do that. So give it a shot. See what you can do with Supine Mountain, supine leg lifts, and then that lowering of the legs from a supine bent leg position. I don't have a name for that. If anyone has ideas, please put them in the comments. Thank you, and have a good time with that.